Okay, well, I've been working on clearing out some room in the truck here. You can see I've done all that. For all this back up in here for now. This is wood that needs to be done away with. It needs to be burnt or whatever at some point. But we'll put it in here for now. Oh yeah. Whew. Oh my goodness. Ooh. We live quite a life, we do. You know. Okay, now. This is all stuff I'll put in the wheelbarrow to burn. Eventually. That's where it'll end up. In the meantime, we'll just take it and put it in. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Hey. Yeah, this is one here that's got so many splits in it. There's not much usable wood in it. Which is too bad because it'd be a beautiful board otherwise. But yeah. Anyway, there's all that. Now the rest of this all needs to be gathered up and taken down. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I was thinking, well, this one here, maybe if I use the top half of it, I could cut it down and use rip it down and use the top half of it, I guess. Anyway, I'll take these back, then I'll come back. But yeah, anyway, I was thinking about something, and again, it may bother some people, but I do think of these things, and I shared them here, so it is what it is, I guess. If you're bothered, you're bothered. But, you know, this whole deal with Canada blaming Trump for our difficulties we're having here, there's a lot of different angles to it, really. And really none of them point to Trump. I'm not saying Trump is perfect. I have some issues with Trump myself. He's done some things I don't particularly like. You know, especially, like I say, the thing with the Epstein client list, I think he's made some huge mistakes in his dealings with that. And that raises some red flags for me. And also, this latest law that he's passed to make it easier to commit people to mental institutions if they're homeless or whatever. I have some issues with that. I don't trust the system. And so for me, to give the system that kind of power to say, well, if you're homeless, you're a mentally ill person or a drug addict and therefore have to be either jailed or forced into a mental institution, I think that's a really backward approach. And yeah, and being a homeless person myself, even though I have permission to camp on this property, I'm still technically a homeless person. So, and the permission to camp on this property is going to come to an end at some point. So, I mean, if I don't have another place to go by then, I'll literally be homeless. And in every sense of the word. And so for me, those kinds of laws are pretty scary. I'm not a drug addict. And as far as I know, I'm no crazier than the average person. So yeah, like I say, I disagree with him on certain topics. I don't like his approach in certain areas. So this isn't somebody who's a rabid Trump fan here or whatever, who thinks that Trump is a god who should never be questioned or anything like that. I think we got plenty of reasons to question Trump. However, I still don't think that it's Trump that destroyed Canada. I've outlined some of my reasons before in other videos, so there's no need to rehash all that. If you want to know, go back and watch those videos, I suppose. But I do have a couple of new things to say about it. This is it, what I want to say. We have had many years in Canada of a globalist government. A globalism has as its goal the destruction of sovereign nations. You know, globalism, what the globalists want is one unified world government. Well, what the Bible calls the beast system. That's what they're trying to bring in. Now, whether they're all consciously aware of it, I think some of them are consciously aware of it and some of them aren't, to be honest. But whether they are all consciously aware of it or not, that is what they're working towards, is the beast system. So, in my opinion, globalism is quite an evil thing. Look at that, that's free wood there. Can't beat that. Well, it's not really free because I got labor into it, but I got to pull nails out of it and everything, but I didn't have to pay money for it. So, hey, that's what it is with the globalist. You know, that they want to establish government, basically. Eventually would be the beast system and will be the beast system. The book of Revelation tells us it is going to establish. So they are going to succeed at some point in doing what they want to do. Well, our country, you know, our people in our country, they criticize Trump for being too nationalist, too protective of the United States and the U.S. economy and so on, to the point where he's willing to do damage to other countries. And this is one of the justifications that's used for blaming him for destroying Canada. But the problem with that is nationalism isn't the problem. Now, it's not nationalism that's destroyed Canada. It's globalism. If our politicians were more nationalistic and less globalist, they would be looking out for our and the people of Canada's best interest. And they'd be putting our best interest ahead of the best interests of countries, including the United States. But no, we don't do that because we're globalist. You see, this is a globalist country. And so, you know, things are a little different here. But yeah, see, the way I'm looking at it, it's one globalist government after another that's caused the issues, not a nationalist government in a foreign country to the south of us. The other thing is, in Canada, we've chosen to focus on things that do not bring prosperity. You know, we have an abundance of natural resources here that we don't manage properly. We could be a very rich country. We could be a very prosperous country. But because we're we're a bunch of virtue signaling saps, we don't harvest our resources because we got to worry. We got to be concerned about man-made climate change and all that stuff, which is just a myth and a fairy tale anyway, but that's what we be concerned about. And oh no, we can't harvest our resources because then we would, we contribute to, it's a huge scam is what it is, and it's keeping us poor. And in the meantime, we're putting all our thoughts and all our priorities, all our efforts into things like, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the LGBTQ, and in facilitating the use of drugs, and all this business. Well, I can tell you right now, drug addiction, does not actually help a country's economy. Drug addiction is a major problem within the economy of any country. It causes a loss of productivity because people who are addicted to drugs, they tend not to be very good employees and so on. They tend not to be very good producers of anything. So that's an issue. And they also tend to be a drain on resources, you know, because they require more medical care. They require more attention from law enforcement. They require this, they require that. It all adds up to more of a drain on the system. They're taking out far more than they ever put in. And yet we're encouraging and promoting the use of narcotics in this country. Our government is basically in partnership, in business with the LGBTQ community. Now, look, I don't have an issue with those people on an individual basis, but I have an issue with some of the radicalized ones who are trying to push a bunch of nonsense, a bunch of fantasy stuff about men getting periods and men getting pregnant, and you are whatever you identify as, and you have a right to have everybody use your pronouns, whatever your chosen pronouns are, and all that. We focus so much on that, and the thing is, there's no money in it. There's no money in homosexuality. I'm sorry, but there isn't. Look, unless you're a gigolo getting paid to suck off another man or something, you're not going to make any money off homosexuality, any more than you make money off any other sexuality. There's no money to be made there. It's not a productive thing. And here we got a government who's in partnership with this community to the point where the focus is on making sure that we have lots of rainbow crosswalks and pride flags flying, and pride parades, and we fire school teachers who refuse to fly a pride flag in their classroom, or who are not sympathetic to the whole trans thing. Giving children puberty blockers and so on. And so we're focused on policing all that and putting our resources into all that. We're going to root out these teachers who don't fly pride flags, and we're going to get rid of them and all this, that has happened. Teachers in this country have been fired for refusing to fly a pride flag in their classroom. The pride flag flies directly underneath the Canadian flag on all our federal buildings. Well, what that's saying is we are in partnership. We are in business with these people. Look, we're not going to make any money like that. We're just not. It's, and so we've done all this stuff. We're focused on all the wrong things. We're focused on things that are nonsense and fantasy. No, I may be committing a crime now in this country by saying this. If I'm not, I soon will be, because they're passing all kinds of laws now to make it a crime to say certain things. But no, men do not get menstrual periods. A man does not have ovaries. A man does not produce eggs. A man has testicles, and he produces seminal fluid with sperm in it. A man does not have a uterus. A man does not have the egg drop into the uterus and the uterine lining thicken, and then a man does not slough off that uterine lining once a month. That's how the female reproductive system works, not how the male reproductive system works. That's just a fact. That's not hateful. That's not bigoted. That's not me hating on transsexual people. That's not me hating on women. And it's not me hating on men. It's just or hating on people in general. I'm just stating an obvious fact. You know, I mean, look, we could talk about the digestive system of a dairy cow, and we could talk about that and how different that is from our digestive system as human beings. All the different stomachs that they have and stuff. We could talk about all of that. Um, does that mean that we hate cows, or does it mean that we hate people, or because people aren't built like cows, or what? It's not a matter of hatred, it's just a matter of acknowledging that a thing is what it is. A cow is built the way it's built because it is to serve the purpose that a cow serves. Men and women are built the way we're built to serve the purpose that we serve. And that's because we have a God who is wise and who designed us properly. And so it isn't a matter of putting anybody down. It's just a matter of acknowledging, some basic truths, like that men do not get pregnant, men do not have menstrual periods. These are not real things. These are fantasy. You can't have real progress and you can't have real prosperity off of fantasy. In order to have real progress and real prosperity, you'll have to concentrate on real things and you have to do real work. That's the bottom line. In this country, the people aren't willing to do that. The people would sooner be like a 12-year-old boy playing a video game, and they'd like to go through life like that. Let's all fantasize. Let's all pretend. There's a time for that. There's nothing wrong with pretending sometimes. But you can't have a whole society based on pretending. You can't have a whole country and a whole life based on pretending. If you spend your entire life just pretending, you'll never get any further than your mother's basement. You'll never have any experiences. You'll never grow as a human being. You'll die just as big a baby as you were born a baby, That's what'll happen. You'll live to be 98 years old and you'll die just a big, inexperienced, stupid baby. That's what'll happen. That's what'll happen. A country is the same way. You can't run a country that way. It doesn't work. If you try running a country that way, you'll fail. And look, I'm no expert on running countries, but I don't have to be to know that because that's just common sense. It doesn't take a rocket scientist or anything else to know that. It just takes somebody with a modicum of common sense. That's all it takes. And unfortunately, common sense has gotten to be a very rare commodity. And that is too bad. Anyway, the bottom line is we're not going to fix the problems in this country by living in a fantasy land and pretending that things are different than they are. It's not going to happen, that's all. And all this blaming Trump for everything, that's also a fantasy. We need to look within our own system, within our own government, and within our own society to figure out why this has happened. I mean, look, I'm not saying that there aren't situations where other people may contribute to a thing. Trump's tariffs definitely aren't going to help us. But if we had been in a better position prior to all this, they wouldn't be hurting us. They wouldn't hurt us nearly as bad as they're going to, you see. And in the end, I don't think Trump cares if we succeed or not, because it's not his job to care about that. He's expecting our politicians to care about that, It's not his job to. He's the president of the United States. It's his job to care what happens down there. So it's not Trump's job to worry about whether or not Canada is successful. we have people up here who are supposed to be doing that, but instead of doing that, they're pushing a globalist agenda which would destroy Canada. That's where all this nonsense and confusion comes from. It's all globalism, and it's meant to destroy, you know? Anyway, that's it. That's all I've got to say on the issue for now. We can go on blaming some president of another country all we want, but that's not solving our problems. Things aren't getting any better here because we're doing that. So maybe we do need to change our approach a bit. I found that if something doesn't work and it doesn't work consistently, that's probably because it's stupid. What we're doing right now isn't working, and it isn't working consistently. So read what you want to into that. Anyway, that's it. We'll talk to y'all later. I hope you're having a good day so far. I'm still gradually working on fixing things up here. I got to go up and get the power bank now. I'm going to plug it in and get the refrigerator moving again. I just defrosted it. Took advantage of this time to defrost it. So it's all defrosted. Yeah, all defrosted. I'll probably take a paper towel and wipe it out a bit. Wouldn't be a bad idea. No point having dirt in there if I can help it. But yeah, anyway, I got to finish clearing out that corner. And then I got to bring in this oh, there we go. Then I got to bring in this I got to bring in the, well, I'll show you in a minute here. Hold on. I got to bring in after I do that, I got to bring in, here we go, we'll get rid of all that too. All right, now, and we'll clean that up too, we will. Yeah, get rid of all that too, we will. Clean this up a bit too. All right, there we go. Okay, now, I'll bring the thingy up here, I will. The power bank, and we'll get the refrigerator plugged back in. We will now. Yeah, that's what we'll do then. Anyway, this cabinet here, I got to bring it inside. I think I'm going to have to modify it a bit to make the refrigerator sit on it, because it isn't really wide enough for the refrigerator. But that's a task that I'll take to in just a little bit. Let me put the thing back in here. All right. Hi, Rocky. I gotta go get the power bank. Okay, guys. We'll see you later. It's beautiful out here right now. Bye.